Miss, you better look at that note.
On November 24, 1971, a quiet man boarded a commercial airplane with a briefcase, demanded $200,000 in cash, and then vanished into the night by parachute. More than 50 years later, no one knows who he really was or whether he survived. This is the mystery of D.B. Cooper, the only unsolved skyjacking in American history. The story began the day before Thanksgiving at Portland International Airport in Oregon. A middle-aged man wearing a dark business suit, white shirt, black tie, and sunglasses purchased a one-way ticket under the name Dan Cooper for Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305, which was headed to Seattle. He appeared calm, polite, and completely ordinary. Nothing about him suggested that he was about to become one of the world's most famous criminals. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a note to a flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. At first, she assumed it was the phone number of a passenger trying to flirt with her. Cooper quietly leaned toward her and said she should read it because he had a bomb. When she opened the note, she saw a demand for money. Cooper briefly opened his briefcase, revealing what appeared to be wires, batteries, and cylindrical objects that looked like explosives. Whether the bomb was real has never been confirmed. Cooper calmly instructed the crew to collect $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle. He warned that he did not want anyone hurt and expected his instructions to be followed exactly. Authorities quickly realized the threat was serious. The FBI and local law enforcement gathered the ransom money, recording the serial numbers of every bill. Meanwhile, the aircraft circled the Seattle area to give officials enough time to prepare the demands. When Flight 305 landed in Seattle, all 36 passengers were safely released. Cooper allowed them to leave without incident. The ransom money and 4 parachutes were delivered to the aircraft, and most of the crew was also released. Only the pilot, co-pilot, flight engineer, and flight attendant Tina Mucklow remained on board. Cooper then ordered the plane to take off again, this time heading toward Mexico City, with a refueling stop planned in Reno, Nevada. He gave very specific instructions for the flight. He wanted the aircraft to fly at a low altitude of around 10,000 feet, at a relatively slow speed, with the landing gear partially deployed and the rear staircase unlocked. The Boeing 727 was one of the few commercial aircraft capable of lowering its rear stairs during flight, a detail that investigators later believed Cooper had known in advance. As the plane flew through heavy rain and darkness over the forests of the Pacific Northwest, something unusual happened. Around 8:13 p.m., the crew felt a sudden change in air pressure, followed by a noticeable upward movement of the aircraft. Cooper had lowered the rear staircase. A short time later, he was gone. Somewhere between Seattle and Reno, carrying the ransom money strapped to his body, he had jumped into the freezing night. When the aircraft landed in Reno, Cooper was nowhere to be found. The only things left behind were a black clip-on tie, a tie clip, and a few other personal items. The money had disappeared with him. The investigation quickly became one of the largest in FBI history. Hundreds of soldiers, law enforcement officers, helicopters, and search teams combed the suspected landing area. Nothing was found. Investigators interviewed hundreds of possible suspects over the following decades, but no evidence was strong enough to identify the hijacker with certainty. In 1980, nearly 9 years after the hijacking, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram discovered 3 bundles of decaying $20 bills while digging along the Columbia River at a place called Tina Bar. The serial numbers matched part of Cooper's ransom money. It was the only confirmed portion of the ransom ever recovered. The discovery created even more questions. No one could explain exactly how the money reached the riverbank, and extensive searches failed to uncover the remaining cash. Over the years, numerous suspects were proposed. Some investigators believed Cooper was a trained military paratrooper. Others argued that his parachuting technique suggested he lacked professional experience. Several men were investigated extensively, including Richard Floyd McCoy Jr., Kenneth Christiansen, Robert Rackstraw, and Dwayne Weber. Each theory attracted supporters, but none produced enough evidence to solve the case. DNA testing on Cooper's tie also failed to provide a definitive identification. In 2016, after spending more than 4 decades pursuing thousands of leads, the FBI officially suspended active investigation into the case. The agency stated that it would only reopen the investigation if significant new physical evidence emerged. Even today, no one knows whether Cooper landed safely, died during the jump, or successfully escaped to live the rest of his life under a different identity. The D.B. Cooper hijacking remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries because it combines careful planning, extraordinary risk, and the complete disappearance of the person responsible. Every few years, a new suspect or theory captures public attention, but the truth continues to hide behind the clouds of that rainy November night. More than 50 years later, one question still refuses to disappear. Was D.B. Cooper a brilliant criminal who escaped forever, or a desperate man whose final jump ended in tragedy? Let us know what you think in the comments, and which theory you believe comes closest to solving the mystery.